Good morning and welcome to my home. So today I'm going to talk about why I live in my car. So I've touched on this subject in lots of other videos, both why I lived in my car before and why I lived in a bus, but I never actually made an entire video just talking about why on earth I'm doing this. So the first major reason why I live in a car, of course, is finances. My cost of living in a car like this is about 50% lower than living in an apartment. It could actually be even more than that, depending on exactly what you're comparing it to. But a simple roommate situation would cost around $1,000 a month, and of course, I'd still need a car to get to any job, basically. So the difference in cost is mostly just the cost of an apartment, which is about $1,000 a month at minimum. And that was a big part of the reason why I stopped renting apartments. I couldn't justify signing a year contract, which is worth about $12,000 at minimum, possibly more depending on your exact living situation, and $12,000 a year for something that I don't really even use. I have very little use for an apartment. I spend no time there, never really have, and I just don't see how I can justify spending that percentage of my income on something I don't use. The next major reason why I like to live in my car is because of roommates. It's only recently that I've been able to afford my own place here in the Seattle area, and even then it just wouldn't be a very smart financial decision. So I would be forced to take on roommates. Now, I've lived with roommates basically my entire adult life. Ever since I went to college at 18, I've had roommates of one sort or another. And, sometimes it works out really well and I make good friends with roommates. Sometimes they're just there. Sometimes I'm just the one that's barely there. And get along just fine. But the problem is then you get into these contracts with the landlord where you have to be there for a year. And if you move out at the end of your lease, your roommate's getting screwed over, basically. And this reverse is true as well. When they leave, you're going to be in pain because then it's back to finding random people on Craigslist to live with. Sometimes it does work out okay. Most of the time it doesn't really work out all that well. It's always very expensive and very stressful trying to manage roommates, and I'm kind of done with that. I want to be able to do my own things and have the flexibility to live the way I want to live. That brings me to the next reason why I like to live in my car, and that is flexibility. Unless you're willing to pay truly ridiculous amounts of money, basically you have to have a 1-year lease anywhere you live, and breaking that lease is always expensive and or difficult. To make my goals in life really work out, I have to relocate. This area is just way too high a cost of living for really anyone, but especially for me, it's just way overpriced. There's just no value in living here anymore. So I need that flexibility to be able to relocate at the drop of a hat without having to break leases or do negotiations with roommates. Nothing like that. I just need to be able to follow opportunities wherever they pop up. And hopefully they'll pop up remotely so then I have even more choices. One of the reasons why I took the job that I did was because I thought that it would be easy enough just to go and relocate to a different Amazon location somewhere else in the country with a lower cost of living, and it would be really simple. It hasn't panned out that way because I get paid here a lot more than I would at other locations around the country, and unfortunately the cost of living in other places around the country have gone up quite a bit as well since I first started this job. So at the moment I am somewhat stuck at the job that I'm at and the location that I'm at. So I really need that flexibility to be able to just follow the work wherever it goes. One of the biggest reasons why I choose to live in the car as well is because it gives me an opportunity to go on a lot of adventures. I've been to far more places even in just my own state here than I probably ever have in my life, just because I have the opportunity to travel. I mean, I'm kind of forced to because I don't really want to spend my entire weekend in a parking lot, although I've done that before as well. But anytime I have time off, I can go on adventures, go to places like this that I've never been before, and just see what places are like. And ultimately, that's really what I want to be doing with car life, is I need to find a new place to set up a home base. I don't necessarily need a house or an apartment or anything like that, but just like a garage space or small commercial space, something like that, where I can keep the few things that I do have and work on projects when I need to, and just store the things that I don't want to be carrying on me at all times. Also, I think it's a good thing to have someplace that you can just go in case something weird happens in the world. As we've seen in the last couple of years, sometimes just having a place to go is a good thing. But to find a place like that, I need to do a lot more exploring. I haven't been to much of this country. I don't really know what it's like. I've been all over the Pacific Northwest here, and I used to live in New England, so I know what those areas are like. But there's an entire rest of the country that I've never been to, and I'd like to explore. And there are a couple other countries as well that I'd really like to go visit and see what they're like. You know, just some neighboring countries that I'd like to go explore. But to do that, I have to sort out my finances first, or find a way to work remotely, something like that. So that's ultimately the goal. So to summarize, basically I'm living in a car so that I can pay off debt, be financially stable, find a new place to live, and go on adventures along the way. So if you're interested in joining me on this adventure, feel free to hit the subscribe button. Yeah, and leave me a comment down below if you already live in a vehicle or if you're considering it. And if you're interested in seeing a video on how much car life costs, feel free to hit this video right here.